Institute of Environmental Health Sciences, and sorry, just kind of dealing with some pop-ups as we go here. And we're, again, very, very happy to be doing this work here in the city of Detroit with a lot of great partners. And so today, this event is going to focus on lead, and specifically lead paint in our homes and the hazards that are posed by lead paint, and then also some of the strategies that some of our wonderful community partners are utilizing to try and address this problem of lead paint. And before we get too far down the road there, I want to introduce our Community Advisory Board co-chair. And Sandra Turner-Handy is the co-chair of our Community Advisory Board. Again, that's this group of leaders in our community that works with us as part of the Cures Center. And wanted to just ask Sandra to give a little bit of a kind of historical perspective about lead and lead abatement, kind of where we've been and where we're going. And so Sandra, if you could please just take it over and give us a little bit of that historical perspective, that'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick, and thank you everyone for that is joining us today. My entry into the world of lead paint in our homes and the impact that it has on our children occurred back in the year 2000. The Detroit Free Press did a series of events around lead paint in homes in the city of Detroit and the increasing number of children that was being impacted by lead. As a person working in the state house at the time in the legislature, we quickly moved to come up with some policies around lead-based paint in our homes. And one was to try to get universal testing, because we figured out that many of our children weren't getting tested for lead. That was a no-go. We had HMOs being implemented at the time, and because it would be just put into their program without any increased reimbursement, most of the HMOs were against that, or I should say managed care. So we came up with another avenue. We knew that many of these children were living in rented homes. So the idea was to get landlords to get inspections on their homes to make sure that they did not have lead-based paint in their homes if they were going to knowingly rent their homes to families with children under the age of 5. That passed. That bill literally passed, and Wayne County Prosecutor's Office picked it up, and we were literally prosecuting landlords that knowingly rented to families with children. That lasted for, I want to say, between 5 to 10 years, and the funding ran out on it. And within that time, a group of Wayne State professors and industry-led abatement educators in the industry, environmental groups, the state of Michigan, all got together and formed a partnership called the Detroit Lead Partnership. And that partnership has been advocating for policies and ordinances that would help to identify homes in Detroit that did have lead in it and work towards abatement of those homes. Wayne State University has been one of our leading advocates in this fight against lead and in the fight to come up with policies that would help us to reduce that exposure to our kids for a long time. So I am so pleased to join them in this great fight. One of the things that the Detroit Lead Partnership and others are a great part of is our Lead Advocacy Day. Every year we do lead education to our state legislators in order to make sure that we have the funding necessary to support the work around lead, to support abatement of lead, to support education around lead. We have residents that come from all over the state, and they join us in Lansing for a day of just educating. And that group of people include parents. You know, our parents are our front line grassroots advocates around, we need funding to make sure that we are taking care of our children. We're educating families around exposure to lead. Today, you're going to hear from some of our main organizations that have been fighting the issue of lead in the city of Detroit for as long as I've been in it, and probably prior to me even getting into that field. So, Nick, I don't know if I gave a great history on it, but one other thing, let me take a step back. I do want to say that these groups that you are going to hear from today have formed a lead working group with the city of Detroit. And they work very closely with our Building Safety Environmental Engineering Department, BC, on developing ordinances around rental property. And one of the ordinances that they were able to pass a few years ago was that every year or every time they go in to inspect rental property, lead would be one of the hazards that would be on the list. Since then, that law has changed, and they will update you on the change in that law, but we are still advocating and still working with the city to make sure that the city and others know that we have an older housing stock in the city of Detroit. And we have various zip codes in our city that have a high concentration of lead-based paint in it. We have generational homes in our city that, again, where we have children going to visit their grandparents or others in their family, and they're incurring lead in that home. As I said, Wayne State has been a great resource around data that implicates the areas where we have the most trouble with lead-based paint in the homes and the areas where there's generational homes. So I want to thank Wayne State, and along with the presenters that you're going to hear from today, in really explaining where we're at and what we need to do in order to decrease the number of children that are being impacted by this poison in our homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. That was a great overview, and thank you as well for your leadership and tireless advocacy on this issue. I know you're always shining the spotlight on other folks, but you've been a real champion here too, and so thank you for that.